Hilary Schan is an independent councillor for Worthing after recently leaving the Labour Party. Hilary was also former co-chair of Momentum, and she now sits on the committee of the We Deserve Better campaign. Today I spoke to her and we discussed the campaign, the Labour Party, and Diane Abbott. Enjoy. Hilary, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Kaz. It's good to be here.
Now, I want to start by asking, you were a Labour councillor in Worthing, yet you quit and you are now currently an independent. So just tell me, why did you decide to leave the party?
I mean, obviously, it's been a really challenging few years on the left of the Labour Party, but the last 6 months have been completely intolerable since October, and the Labour Party and Keir Starmer's reaction in particular to the conflict in Gaza, from those comments that he made on LBC around Israel having the right to withdraw humanitarian aid, water and food from Palestine, to then doubling down on it and then pretending that he didn't say it at all, to the ongoing reaction to that crisis. And then, of course, U-turn upon U-turn on domestic policy. And for me, as a local councillor, I think one of the final straws was really the lack of commitment to local government funding. As Labour councillors, we have been saying for years that the state of local councils is down to the financial cuts from the Conservative government over 14 years. And so how can we in good conscience sit in a chamber and defend exactly the same policies under Labour? So for me, it was, it was kind of a gradual thing over the last few months, and then finally kind of made that decision in May.
Yeah, and I suppose for a lot of people, Gaza was sort of the one that really sort of pushed people to the edge and they quit. And I guess you kind of said that you gradually came to this position. But I want to ask, did you in any way believe Keir Starmer when he made those pledges when he ran for leader? Because for me, I'm honest, I never trusted him. But I expected the party would move to the right. I just didn't expect how drastic the move would be. So was this the same for you, or did you think, you know what, the left really had moved the debates and we could still rally behind Starmer on those 10 pledges?
No, I think I absolutely felt the same as you. I mean, I was active in Rebecca Long Bailey's leadership campaign. I never did believe that, Starmer was going to keep entirely to that policy position, as you say. However, I feel exactly the same. I don't think many people anticipated just how bad it would be. And I think not just on policy, but the clamping down on members' ability to discuss anything, have any say in local selections, the totally undemocratic nature of a supposedly democratic party, a member-led party, I think has just gone beyond anything that anybody could have anticipated. And I think that is true of even people on the right of the party. I think moderates in the party, I know several, who even they have been actually dismayed and quite angered, particularly around the stitch-ups in terms of parliamentary selections.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a good point because it's not a factional thing. I mean, well, Keir Starmer's leadership is very factional, but you mentioned about those on the right of the party. The moderates are dismayed at Keir Starmer. So I guess this means this could make governing for Keir Starmer very difficult. I mean, Labour are looking like they're going to win the landslide, but if you're losing the so-called moderates, surely his time as prime minister will be very difficult.
I absolutely agree. And I think that's what's really staggering, actually, is that even in the party membership, I mean, you're always going to have your kind of diehard, fans of his, but really amongst sort of hardworking activists, I wouldn't say he's even particularly that popular. It's just the sort of lure of a Labour government is enough to keep a lot of those people going. But I think it's an extremely weak coalition because once he gets in, and obviously, these policies are not going to be enough to tackle the multitude of crises that we face in this country. We know that. And we've seen kind of tasters of that in the past around, not scrapping the two-child benefit cap, for example. We saw it on the reaction to Gaza as well, that there are issues where even, the soft left and possibly moderates as well will pile in on him and will be willing to be vocal in opposition. So yeah, I think it's going to be a rough ride for sure.
Now, you were the co-chair of Momentum. I believe you joined in 2022. That was 2 years after Keir Starmer was elected. So I assume you felt that the left, had some power in the party at that point. There must have been a period that 2 years after Starmer's leadership to now where you thought it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah, I did, and obviously, I mean the difference being, of course, we are in a general election year now. I think the role of momentum is still incredibly important. I think for those that do stay in the Labour Party, and I have a huge amount of respect for those on the left that do stay in and fight for those values in the party. And I think that, will always be a valuable role to play. For myself, I think heading into a general election was a kind of deciding factor for me. Now that we are at the point where Labour looks certain to form the next government in whatever way that looks like, and it looks like it will be a hefty majority. We don't know quite how big. But the fact that that is now going to happen and that we are at risk of just seeing vanishingly few progressive voices in Parliament. For me, the We Deserve Better campaign that obviously Owen Jones started, I just thought that that gave the left some drive and a focus where we can actually look to start building around campaigns around the right people with the right policies, as opposed to kind of obsessively wearing our red rosettes and feeling the collective Stockholm syndrome. So yeah, there was a kind of freedom to that for me, that I just thought, you know what, actually, I could get out there and I could start backing people that I really believe in, and that I know are going to make a difference if they are elected and will challenge Keir Starmer from the left, which I think is just incredibly important.
We'll talk about We Deserve Better in a second, but you kind of answered my next question, because I was going to ask you, do you still think that there is a future inside the Labour Party, or do you think that, Labour is still a vehicle for change? I guess that you're saying momentum still plays an important role. You think that's the case, but my question is the fact that the right have such an iron grip on the party that I think they're changing it forever. I mean, they're obviously stitching up candidates. They're making sure that essentially yes men are in. Uh, it seems to me it's completely dead.
I mean, I think there will always be a presence for the left in the party. I think you're completely right in that the iron grip that they've got on the party machine, which unfortunately we failed to do when we had the leadership, and particularly in respect of the leadership rules. And I've heard, I don't know whether it's true, but I've heard that they're thinking of bringing a rule change to conference this year where they won't have any leadership elections that involve members whilst in government. And so that just shows, further shutting out of Labour Party members. So I don't think it's going to get any easier anytime soon. But it is still incredibly important to have that presence on the left of the Labour Party. And that's why I haven't chosen to join another political party, because I think it is time for the left to start coming together in whatever guise that looks like, and to kind of build that wider movement around issues that are important to all of us, whether that's socialist policies, whether that's around Gaza. And of course, the Labour left as well is critically has that relationship with the trade unions, which is not replicated anywhere else. And so there are still some really important roles for the Labour left to play. And for organisations like Momentum to organise those people that remain in is still really important.
So we're going to talk about We Deserve Better. You touched upon it. I assume most people know, but for those that haven't heard of it, please just tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, so Owen Jones launched the campaign a couple of months ago now, when he left the Labour Party. And it's really about trying to identify candidates, regardless of their party affiliation and indeed whether they're standing as independents, who can really challenge Labour in some key seats in order to elect progressive, pro-Palestine, environmentalist, socialist candidates that can pressure the Labour Party from the left. So the key candidates that we'll be supporting is, of course, Jeremy Corbyn in Islington North, Leanne Mohammed, who is standing against Wes Streeting in Ilford North, Carla Denyer in Bristol Central, and we're having conversations with other candidates as well. Carla obviously standing for the Green Party, who looks to be having a really good chance of unseating Thangam Debonair there. So yeah, it's really about fundraising, around those candidates, because of course they don't have the party donations that other candidates do. So it's a really grassroots powered movement to elect those progressive voices. And as I said, something for the left to really focus on, come together, and hopefully pour into those seats to really give those candidates the best chance.
I'm interested to know how the campaign selects their candidates or says we're going to campaign for them. I mean, is there a policy list they have to subscribe to? Do they have to have certain values in terms of social progressivism? So, as we know, we also have. I mean, I don't particularly call them left wing, but the flank on the maybe economic left, which is the Workers' Party of Britain, headed by George Galloway. Of course, I don't think he seems to have the same values as We Deserve Better. But I want to know how do you decide which candidate is right or which candidate is well? We agree with some of their policies, but I don't like their issues and social policy, for example.
Yeah, so I mean, we're not a membership-led organisation, so it is a small committee of members who have those conversations, and as I said, are talking to various candidates. But yes, essentially there is that sort of socialist, pro climate justice, pro Palestine stance that we would be looking for, but also crucially in a position where they may well unseat a Labour politician as well. So that's what all of those have in common that we're supporting at the moment. I mean, you're completely right about George Galloway. I wouldn't see him as in line with our social policies, as you say. So yeah, it's really kind of a combination of personal politics, but also looking at the chances and where our resources and where that money that is fundraised is going to go the furthest, essentially.
Now, this campaign, is it just for this election, or can we see it continuing? Maybe if there's by-elections or local elections and then many other general elections? Or right now, is this just about the 4th of July?
Yeah, at the moment, we're focused on the general election, but I think we'll have to see where it goes after that. I mean, myself, obviously having stood down along with two other councillors in Worthing and standing as an independent, we're also talking to lots of other independent councillors around the country, that we're not unique in that. There have been many, we saw in Oldham, for example, that group of Labour councillors that all stood down over Gaza to become independents all won their seats again in May. So I don't think this is a movement that's going away. I think there's a real appetite out there for independent candidates, particularly who are focused on local issues. I mean, I've certainly never seen so much apathy on the doorstep for both the two major parties. And we've had an incredible amount of support from residents who really are excited to see a more kind of localist, community-led model in local government. So, and as you say as well, who knows what's going to happen post Labour government, and if there are by-elections, I think it's going to be a difficult year, first year in government for Labour. They aren't really promising anything that is going to make a tangible difference to people's lives in this country, and I think they risk seeing some real anger and disappointment. So I think it could be a really interesting term in government, and I think, as I said, this movement isn't going anywhere.
Now, speaking of the Labour Party, some recent developments that come out from them is shocking. Is that Diane Abbott is looking like she will get the whip back, but she is blocked from standing as a Labour candidate in a seat that she represented for 37 years. So I want to get your response to that. And also, what does that say about Keir Starmer's Labour Party? And then finally, would the We Deserve Better campaign back an independent Diane Abbott?
I mean, I think it's absolutely abhorrent the way that Diane Abbott has been treated. And I mean, it is even worse than any of us imagined, the fact that he has actually been going on television and lying, saying that this was an ongoing process, that it was an independent process, that was nothing to do with him. And actually, it concluded back in December. She had the recommendation to do the training, which she undertook in February. And even last week, he was still saying that this was an ongoing process. I mean, it is absolutely shocking. Once that was done and that the training was done, that meant it was squarely with the chief whip and the Labour leader to reinstate the whip to Diane Abbott. And unfortunately, they have been caught out by this being escalated by the fact that there's been a general election and obviously Newsnight's revelations about that letter. And he has been caught red-handed lying to the public once again. And Diane is an absolute stalwart of the Labour movement. She's been an amazing figure on the left of the party and in anti-racism fight. And yeah, it's absolutely shocking. As for kind of the position on Diane, I mean, at the moment, she does have the Labour whip back, and Keir Starmer at the moment is saying that a decision hasn't been taken to block her as a candidate. And so our position very much is that should Diane want to stand again as a Labour candidate, she should be allowed to do so. If, however, she was blocked from being a Labour candidate and decided to stand as an independent, I believe she would win. She has a huge amount of support in Hackney. And yes, We Deserve Better would be extremely happy to fight all the way for her.
I mean, what I think about the We Deserve Better campaign is something that I'm excited about. Probably the first time since probably the 2019 election. I think what's different about it, and it reminds me of in the US, they had the what was it, the Justice Democrats campaign, when you had Kyle Klinsky and Cenk Uygur of TYT, and they wanted to pretty much field a progressive candidate against the Democrats. And I think I see sort of a mirror image here, because it transcends the tribal politics of political parties. This speaks to the individuality of the quality of the candidate. So, I mean, it's something that I'm very excited about. But I want to ask, how can people get involved in the campaign?
Yeah, really good question. Glad that you're excited as well. I definitely am. I mean, best thing to do is go to wedeservebetter.uk. You can make a donation there. Obviously, that's a great way to get involved, but also sign up with news alerts in terms of where we'll be campaigning and who for. Definitely check out the candidates that we are supporting. As I said, Jeremy in Islington North, Leanne Mohammed in Ilford North, Carla Denyer in Bristol Central as well. And get involved in those campaigns. And we will certainly be getting people together to go canvassing, leafleting, etc. for those candidates. But I really agree. I mean, it's certainly the first time I've felt this excited as well since the 2019 election. And I think what has been fantastic is that we're seeing those campaigns that we're helping to fund are grassroots campaigns the same. And it very much reminds me of Momentum back in the day of 2017 and those early elections, where it really is just about getting people on board, asking people, when are you available to leaflet, when are you available to canvass, just come up, turn up, and let's do this kind of thing and take on the machine. So yeah, very much reminds me of the early days of Momentum. It's incredibly exciting. But I also, the reason it reminds me of that kind of early days of Corbynism is that it's bringing in people who haven't been involved in politics, and they are being driven to these campaigns either by a specific issue, particularly Palestine. I've had so many conversations with people that are getting involved in these campaigns who have never been involved in politics before, who are just so appalled by what is happening in Gaza and feel so let down by our political party's response, that they want that alternative. They want somebody that is going to give the Palestinians that voice. And so there are people coming to this, and some people, who have been appalled by the way that Jeremy's been treated by the party, for example, and feel angry that they haven't been given the choice to have him stand as their Labour candidate. And so it really does feel like those kind of early days of that grassroots movement again. So I really encourage everybody to sign up to those individual candidates campaigns, and also to We Deserve Better UK as well.
I think that's a really interesting point you made, because according to the media, they'll love to frame this campaign as just disgruntled Corbynites, and it's just those lot that have joined the campaign. But you're telling me that actually there's a lot of people who were never involved before, and it's not just about, I mean, of course, there were many who were angry about way Jeremy Corbyn was treated, but there's a diverse group of people that's coming into the fold.
Absolutely. And yeah, that is completely untrue that this is just kind of, I know, I mean, the Green Party, as you can see, is already getting the sort of
Yeah.
2017 Labour Party under Corbyn treatment, where, we've just all shipped over there and turned our entryism on another victim. But yeah, absolutely. The conversations I've been having, I mean, here in Worthing, We've had a local group called Parents for Peace pop up, again, never involved in politics at all, and they have been incredible in terms of organising locally, marches through the town. They've brought a deputation to council. They've been holding various community events. And as I said, these are not, quote unquote, political people, but they are being politicised by what is happening in Gaza. And for their first sort of foray into politics, they are seeing two major parties who are not willing to stick their necks out and who are not willing to do what is right in terms of just pure humanity, with calling for a permanent immediate ceasefire straight away, and even now won't commit to banning arms sales to Israel. And so these people are coming into politics for the first time and are rightly appalled by the system and by our representatives. And again, for people like myself and others that have stood away from that two-party machine, it gives us the opportunity to work really closely with these groups and understand what they're about and really give them that representation, which is a huge opportunity and a great honor as well.
Hilary, it's been a pleasure. I really think, as I said before, that the We Deserve Better campaign is important. I think in the interest of democracy, we need to break the duopoly. So I wish the campaign the best of luck, and thank you again.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's good to speak to you.